What is up, Dodgers Nation, and welcome to another episode of Dodgers Dugout Live, the #1 Dodgers show and podcast on YouTube. My name is Doug McCain, credentialed member of Dodgers Media. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And today we are joined by friend of Dodgers Nation, friend of Dodgers Dugout Live, Mr. Tim Rogers joins the show, and we're talking all things Dodger baseball and everything that's gone on this offseason and what the Dodgers still need to do to really give themselves the best chance to put together the best roster to defend their title.
It's time for Dodger baseball. Welcome to Dodger Stadium.
This is the golden age of Dodger baseball. The Dodgers are building a dynasty.
You guys ready to parade? We got a parade! The Dodgers punch back and head to the championship series! Starts the 50-50 clock. Milky Magic. Freeman hits the ball to right field. She is gone. Start the party, Los Angeles. Your Dodgers have won the World Series.
Think blue, bleed blue, and I'm out. But Tim, what a year it's been for the Dodgers in 2024. But Happy New Year. It's the page turns in 2025 where they're set to defend their title.
I got to tell you, man, this has been the easiest offseason. Happy New Year and happy 9th day of Christmas to all you celebrating.
Awesome.
Given what happened in 2024, it's been great. And they're putting the team back together. I mean, we're going to miss Walker Buehler, but dang, we got Blake Snell.
That's the thing. Blake Snell, massive signing, $182 million. I think he is the best pitcher they could have signed based on his ceiling on this stuff. When he's right, this Dodgers team saw firsthand what he was capable of in Game 6 of the 2020 World Series. If you ask me if I could have Blake Snell, Corbin Burns, or Max Fried, I would have to think twice. Blake Snell would be that guy. Would you agree?
I do agree, and I actually favor him right now. There was a thing about the odds of the Cy Young Award. It's Blake Snell, man. That's the guy. He's on a team that's going to use him, I think, the best possible way. And he's on a team that's going to slug. He didn't have to, worry too much about, he's going to walk guys every once in a while, but he actually is working on that. And he walks with a purpose too. We know that. He's trying to make sure he doesn't give up something big. So I think he's going to fit right in. Little extra prior lab will only help him. So we've replaced Walker Buehler with Blake Snell. I hate you losing Walker Buehler. Now the question is, does Tyler Glasnow, I'm looking at the playoff rotation, does Tyler Glasnow do enough to replace Jack Flaherty if we lose him? And I think we are. And then we got Shohei coming, Tony Gonsolin coming back. Looking at that, I'm going, as you know, you can never have enough pitching. But they're getting close. And I think they do need to sign more because you just never stop signing pitching.
Yeah, absolutely. And today we're joined by Tim Rogers, by the way. You can definitely follow him on X and make sure you are a part of the Blue Madness experience on YouTube. I'm a little disappointed not rocking the shades, but still, definitely go follow him and go watch his show on YouTube. But yeah, I mean, kind of getting back to what you're saying about the starting rotation, and you go out there and you fill the void of a Walker Buehler, and then you add a Blake Snell. I think there's any question in my mind that at this stage of their careers, Blake Snell is easily a better pitcher than Walker Buehler. Having said that, though, Walker Buehler was the guy who pitched 10 scoreless in the postseason. Walker Buehler was the guy that struck out Alex Verdugo to win the Dodgers their 8th World Series title. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the dog mentality that this rotation had is, look, it didn't matter what kind of pitcher it was. They were going to find a way to get the job done, and it remains to be seen, will next year's crop of starters, however this rotation will look when the postseason rolls around, how many guys will stay healthy? Will they be able to perform in those situations? But you look at this rotation, though, as a whole, you mentioned Tyler Glasnow, and not a lot of people are talking about him this offseason just because of the injury that he suffered. People have their doubts that he can finish a full season and make it to the postseason and give the Dodgers what they hoped he would, which is be that dominant Game 1 elite starter that can put a team on his back. Well, he did tell us towards the end of the year that he was going to look at some things with his mechanics, and he puts a lot of force on his elbow because of his stride to the plate. You just kind of knowing young guys coming up, the way the pitcher's mechanics work. I mean, how difficult do you think that is going to be for someone like Tyler Glass now to kind of change things with his delivery to avoid the injuries at this stage of his career? Do you think ultimately he'll just kind of go back to the guy that he was?
Man, that's rough. I mean, I tried to change one of my kids' throwing mechanics when he was 14, and that didn't work. So
Yeah,
to change it the age of like 30 or whatever he is, it's going to take a lot of discipline, and I get concerned about the next impact. Then if he fixes one thing, does it break something else? But the 6-man rotation, sounds like we're getting it, Doug. I've only been advocating since 2019 on this thing, so that might help. But I have my depth chart right now of the starting pitching. There's a lot of names, but then again, we had a lot of names last year. And even during that time, I had like 12 or 13 guys as starting pitchers candidates for 2024, and we barely had 3 in the playoffs. And that was when I was advocating for Blake Snell back then. So I still think the Dodgers have more to do. But if you look at it, you got Yamamoto, Snell, Glasnow, Gonsolin, Knack, Kasparius, Robleski, Frasso. Don't forget about him. Bobby Miller. I still haven't given up. Maybe Dustin May, even though I like him in the bullpen, of course. And if he's healthy, Shohei Ohtani. And yeah, Clayton Kershaw at some point too.
Clayton Kershaw at some point. But yeah, I mean, on paper, the depth is certainly there. The young talent is certainly there as well. And I think you look at the loss to Gavin Stone, the fact that Bobby Miller didn't have the greatest of years. There's not Landon Knack definitely was someone that stepped up when he needed to. He filled crucial innings throughout the season when a lot of guys were on the IL, but still, you kind of look at the guys they brought in, the top end talents. Shohei Ohtani coming back, Yoshinobu Yamamoto in year 2. And you saw a lot yesterday, Jack Flaherty on his Instagram, he posted a screenshot of something related to the Dodgers. And for me, I don't think Jack Flaherty is going to be back. I don't think the Dodgers are seriously considering paying him, considering the fact that he put himself in a really nice position to sign a multi-year deal. He did what Walker Buehler is going to hope to do next year with the Red Sox, have a really nice season, get traded to a team or contend with the Red Sox or whatever it is, pitch well in the postseason if he gets the opportunity, and then sign a multi-year contract. I don't see Jack Flaherty as a possibility with the Dodgers, but do you think there's any chance that they go that route, or do you think that you're going to agree with me that he won't be in LA?
Yeah, I give it low odds, but it is January. Players are going to start panicking. I mean, who would have thought we got Teoscar last year on a 1-year deal, right?
Good point.
So I kind of look at those and I go, well, I don't put anything past Andrew Friedman.
I just think that if Flaherty was looking for a 1-year deal, sure, I think they might consider. I mean, they didn't give Walker a multi-year deal with opt-outs. I mean, they didn't extend him the qualifying offer. So, I mean, the market for Jack Flaherty is just going to be healthier just because, look, I mean, he did have his ups and downs in the postseason, struggled in the Game 5s against the Mets and the Yankees. It wasn't the greatest in the NLDS, but he had that Game 1 against the Mets where he pitched really, really well. And against the Yankees, against their best hitters, he had success too. So I think for Jack Flaherty, yes, the pull is there just because you love this city. You grew up in Burbank. You won a World Series with this team. You got your own $20, $30 shake at Erewhon, right? He definitely fits the look of an LA type player, but I just don't think the role is there for him with this team. Now, as far as the 6-man rotation, you definitely were someone that's been pushing for this for a long time. And I think a lot of the reasons make sense for the Dodgers just for the simple fact that they have struggled to keep their best pitchers on the mound for the duration of a full regular season and be able to have enough left in the tank to perform to their highest levels in the postseason. We saw in 2021, right? Walker Buehler didn't pitch his best against the Braves and certain moments there. Julio Urias, he ran out of gas. But in your mind, what is the number one advantage for the Dodgers to go to the 6-man rotation, aside from just having a lot of Japanese pitchers that are used to it, like Yamamoto, Ohtani come back, and potentially Roki Sasaki?
Well, hopefully Roki Sasaki for sure. It really is. It's a health thing. I mean, right now I know they're working on this. They're investigating. I'm sure they've been even working on it before, but they haven't tried it. They haven't gone for the full 6-man rotation. They go, oh, we're using off days and all that. No, you got to go straight up. Basically, guys pitch once a week. I think it's worth the shot, and it's all about health and being ready in October. That's all. That's where it's at. It's still, Doug, how the heck did the Dodgers win with that rotation? It's amazing. And I don't think you can duplicate that again. That was a true unicorn. Props to Dave Roberts. Extend that, man. It was amazing, but I don't want to have to count on that again.
You're not going to see that again. You're not going to see a team that is going to allow their bullpen to cover over 60% of the innings. It's just unrealistic. The Dodgers did it once, and they were able to have that 24-inning no run streak by the Padres. Their offense just went to Cancun a couple games early, but that's unrealistic. You're just not going to see that, and that kind of brings me to kind of the bullpen in general. We'll kind of get back to the rotation, but when you look at the bullpen as they're constructed right now, they bring back Blake Trinan. And Blake Trinan, he's been phenomenal. He's been fantastic for this team in the postseason. He was great in 2020 in the World Series, and he got injured, missed a significant amount of time, multiple injuries, the shoulder injury, broke his ribs early in this season. He was the guy this postseason, NLDS, NLCS, and then he comes up big in Game 5 where he goes 2 1/3 innings. They re-signed him on a $22 million deal. Were you surprised at all they gave him that amount of money, and how excited are you to see him back in this bullpen?
Yeah, I may be a little surprised that it was 2 years. I thought it might have been a 1 year 14 or something like that. But hey, I'm glad. And the guy earned it. He went out and sold out for the team. And so, yeah, I'm very excited about Blake Trinan. You look at it, it's like, hey, wait, coming back, right? The top 3 right-handers. We got Evan Phillips, Blake Trinan, and Michael Kopech. That's pretty darn good. We got Alex Vesia, who's Vesia is legit good. And then we got Anthony Bandit. That's 5 really good relievers to work.
And then Brewstar back at some point.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's July. I got a bad mojo about that. But you also go, okay, Ryan Brazier's coming back, off and on. Edgardo Enriquez, come on, that's a possibility.
Absolutely.
But also, my guy is Dustin May.
So you're all in on the Dustin May going to the bullpen, maybe a multi-innings guy. What do you think would be the biggest key for him to transitioning to that, from going from a starter to a potential reliever? Just routine, mix? I mean, what do you think the biggest key to that transition would be for Dustin Mania?
Well, he just one time, he's going. I envision him as a closer someday, but yeah, the routine obviously has to change. He doesn't have to worry about more than 2 pitches. If he has a 3rd pitch, okay, but it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be the show it to me type thing. But come on, let's look at those highlights of him making Manny Machado look just absolutely foolish. Who's, he's a borderline Hall of Famer. He's really great, been a great player. Hasn't been great the last couple of years. But the dude, he was great when Dustin May was making him look like a fool. So I like that idea. And also maybe Nick Froslo in the bullpen. I think even Ben Kasparius, who that's slider, right? Yeah, it's a real live arm. And so I like our in-house options, but we got to talk about, the elephant in the room, Tanner Scott.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I definitely want to get back to Dustin May before we kind of move on, because just hearing you say it kind of just makes it feel a little more real to me, because we're already in 2025. And at this point, he's someone that has to make a decision on his future and the kind of pitcher that he wants to be. I mean, time flies. He made his debut in 2019. He's under 1 more year of team control. He's going to be a free agent. And yes, every single starting pitcher wants to take a crack at being a rotational piece. You want to be that guy and go every 5th day, go 6 or 7 innings, make the All-Star team, compete for a Cy Young. But that's not in the cards for every single pitcher. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to have a ton of value. I think that's what's so enticing about Dustin May is I think with his stuff, when he's at his best, I had the pitching ninja, Rob Friedman, on my show, and asked him, who's the nastiest? He cut me off mid-sentence and said 2 names, Blake Trinan and Dustin May. Those are the two guys that are the nastiest that he posts on Pitching Ninja. And Blake Trine's already a reliever, right?
Yeah.
Dustin May going to be a reliever potentially. I mean, he could have a bright future. We're about to talk about a Tanner Scott that went out there and pitched very well in Miami, went to San Diego, proved his worth there, could sign an $80 million deal. If I'm Dustin May, I am going to the Dodgers, and I'm saying, I don't care if you want to try me as a starter again. I want to start that process in what could be my last year with the Dodgers, where I could pitch meaningful innings in the postseason, and I want to look like an explosive reliever, and then I want to go to the market and have teams lining up to sign me.
Yeah, I like that outlook, comparing it to the Tanner Scott thing, because he's still very young. And for me, at the end of the day, I put him in the bullpen because unless he's going to drastically change his mechanics, next one he's done.
There you go.
So,
that 3/4 delivery, right?
Yeah. And there's a lot of movement in the back. You know, if you look at the Payne guy, he's going to talk all about the things that he does wrong. But also, if he's a starter, let's just say he only has so many bullets. He doesn't change his mechanics. He's only got so much. He could blow them all in 1 or 2 years versus 5 years.
Fantastic point. Yeah.
Time to get his
doubt
money.
about it. And if you're a team out there, you see what he's capable of, you see what he can do. And I like what you point out about the pitch mix. I mean, he goes sinker, he goes four-seam fastball. We saw before he was injured a couple years ago, the increased use of that four-seam fastball, getting that perceived rise up in the zone. If he has that in his bag and you couple that with that curveball that has a really nasty out pitch, I think the sky's limited for Dustin May. I think that like we mentioned outlook, we shouldn't view Dustin May as a disappointment or a bust or anything like that as a starter. It's just, no, we're going to recognize the talent is still there, because the beautiful thing in all this is what he has, you can't coach. We talk about the Dr. Mark Pryor coaching lab and everything the Dodgers do from a development standpoint. You can stay in the Dr. Mark Pryor lab all night. You can't come out with something like Dustin May. That is from the baseball gods, right? I mean, we'd say here, moves more than the military family. So I think it should be more excitement than disappointment about the potential for Dustin May. And I think that you look at constructing his bullpen, and you asked me a couple minutes ago, Doug, how did we do this? How did we win a World Series with 3 starters? We did it with bullpen dogs that stepped up in big spots. So this now, they know that, one, we went out there and we invested in starting pitching. We got Tyler Glass now, Yamamoto. Yamamoto missed almost 3 months, still performed very well in the postseason. Glass now wasn't there for the postseason. He still had to go out there and trade for Jack Flaherty. The Dodgers know that to win the postseason, it's increasingly becoming a bullpen game. So adding May to that mix, I think it's something that's intriguing. But let's talk about Tanner Scott, because the Tanner Scott rumors are starting to pick up a little bit. I've heard that there's interest from Tanner Scott's side. The Dodgers have made it pretty clear they want to add another high-level reliever, and they are interested in Tanner Scott as well. But the news recently is that Tanner Scott is looking for $80 million for Tanner Scott. Now, I predicted that the Dodgers would ultimately sign him for $60 million, and that makes $80 million, gives it another year and another $20 million. But that's a lot. I mean, this team's got the money to do it, and they've kind of broken all these rules we thought they had for themselves in the last couple of years. But do you think $80 million for Tanner Scott is a deal that you would do, Mr. Tim Rogers?
You mean, Mr. It's not my money, and you can never
it's
have
not my
enough
money.
pitching?
Hey, that's a good Blue Madness T-shirt right there.
I know.
It's
I gotta
not
get
my
it,
money.
man. I gotta get with Gary, man. Help me out with that.
Yeah, there we go.
But yeah, that is a lot, and I totally understand any hesitation on that. But you know, there's the bonuses, there's the deferrals. You could make it a 5-year, 6-year contract, whatever. There's a lot of things that. Well, let's put it. It's Andrew Friedman and Brandon Gomes. If they want him, they will get him.
There you go.
But you know, as an alternative though, man, I love the idea, even though he's not a lefty, of Kirby Yates.
Kirby Yates is someone that the Rangers have talked about wanting to bring back when he is right. He's explosive, kind of on the older side.
Yeah, he is.
And it would kind of fit in the in the process of, okay, let's get a guy on a shorter term deal because relievers are volatile. Let's hope we get the best version of him. And then whatever contract we sign him to ultimately won't break us. I mean, Tanner Scott, an $80 million deal nothing is really going to break this Dodgers team, quite frankly, with the money that they're making. And this is truly the golden age of Dodger baseball, not just from the on the field success, but also the off the field and the bank account success as well. But it is a bigger investment. And when you're not going to spend $80 million on relievers every offseason. So if you're going to do that this offseason, it better be a guy that you can trust is going to have success. And kind of diving into Tanner Scott as a player, the only real knock on him is the command. Yep. And you look at his baseball savant page, it's red everywhere. I mean, he's in the 90 percentile or above in expected ERA, expected batting average, fastball velocity, average exit velocity, chase rate, whiff percentage, strikeout rate, barrel percentage, hard hit percentage, ground ball rate, all that stuff except for walk rate, where is a 12.2 walk rate in the 7th percentile. Having said that, you mentioned the improvements that the Dodgers can have with pitchers. I think that's an area where there's certainly room for improvement, and the Dodgers can help him get there. Because if you look at his first strike percentage, it was at 67.7% last season. League average was at 61.5%. Talk to a lot of pitching coaches, talk to people, they'll say that's an indicator of a way to walk less guys. So I think that he just hasn't put it all together from that standpoint, but he's the best reliever available, and I don't think that would deter me from wanting to sign him.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, that is definitely my first option to get him. I just think that would make the bullpen just amazing, and that's just going into the season with even a bunch of question marks. It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're talking about someone throws 97, 98, throws a hard slider. You've mentioned Aroldis Chapman a couple times, guys like that, hard throwing lefties. He's your hard-throwing lefty, and you add him to a bullpen that already has Michael Kopech. He's your fireballer from the other side that has that top-level postseason playing up talent. Evan Phillips, I think, is due to have a better season after dealing with some things this year. You still have Alex Vesia. You still have Brusdar Graterol coming back. You still have Anthony Bonda, as you pointed out. But I think what makes it really interesting is, look, you don't have Daniel Hudson anymore, right? He was kind of the leader of his bullpen in a lot of ways. Blake Trine, I think, is going to assume that role. I definitely think that bringing in hungry guys that got paid and won a World Series and helped this team get there is huge as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, and that's where I go, well, if they miss that on Tanner Scott, and I put it, I'm going to say 30% chance they get Tanner Scott. So that's why I'm going, hey, I'm already going to get my heart set on someone like a Kirby Yates. Now, what Kirby brings, of course, is the splitter. Now, the Dodgers talk about they like to have variety in their bullpen. That splitter, and it's nasty, that is a difference maker. You go and say, okay, here we go with Evan Phillips with his stuff. Then you bring in a Kirby Yates, and then you bring in a Trinan or a Kopech. It's just you have all sorts of nice variety there when I'm not including the lefties. So
yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. I mean,
that's why I like that.
For sure. I mean, that splitter for Kirby Yates, and you're right. I mean, Andrew Friedman has mentioned that. You don't want to have every guy coming out of your bullpen throwing 100. You also don't have every guy coming out of your bullpen throwing the same fastball slider combo that we're seeing from teams. Having guys that can mix it up, give guys different looks, it just keeps them off balance. And that splitter for Kirby Yates is one of the best we've seen out of a reliever, and he still has it. Last season, opponents hit 114 off that splitter. He paired it with that four-seam fastball. It's a nice, clean, easy combination. Throws the four-seamer 60% of the time, throws the splitter almost 40% of the time. And I love that simplicity with that. And I definitely think that's someone that's interesting to pivot towards. I definitely think so too. I'm surprised 30%. You said the Dodgers get who they want. If they want Tanner Scott, what makes you think it's just 30%?
They'll get him at what they want him for. They still do right. That. And I do believe.
But who's paying him 80 is my question.
Yeah. Well, first of all, if he wants to be a Dodger and be a highly paid Dodger, you've got to do deferments. You got to do deferrals.
Yes.
That is the way that is the way the Dodgers do things now. And it's in Shohei, Freddie, and Mookie, now Blake Snell, now Teo have set that example. So that will factor in, and that might make it a little easier for the Dodgers to stomach it. Because I think there's probably in their head a principle going, I don't want to pay another reliever a lot of money. I don't want to do this. I just think it's something that's kind of ingrained in their head. But then again, who would have thought that they were going to do what they did with Blake Snell that quick? So
For sure.
nothing past them. But like I said, I kind of, in my head, I just get my reality going, okay, it'll be great to get Tanner Scott. But if we end up with Kirby Yates, that's still pretty good. And then there's some other guys too to talk about when you're ready.
It's still really good. There's no doubt about it. But I do think that with this team showing us again, even the Teoscar Hernandez deal where you're already way past the Cohen threshold, you have to pay 110% surcharge on anything after that. You look at the AAV, when you look at the signing bonus, you're up to $45 million in a commitment right off the bat with Teoscar Hernandez, right? They're saying that with Teoscar Hernandez's age, hey, we want him back because we think this group right now can win a championship again next season and the season after that and the season after that.
Yep.
We're thinking less about the last 5 years of Shohei and more about the first 5 years of Shohei, where you still have Betts in his prime, you still have Freddie Freeman hitting walk-off grand slams in the World Series. I think Tanner Scott is the move. I'm not saying it's a must sign. I'm not saying if the Dodgers don't sign Tanner Scott, they won't win the World Series or anything like that. But if you want to perfect your roster in the offseason and do what Andrew Friedman told us, which is not have to go to market and get a reliever at the deadline, Tanner Scott's the guy. Because look, you get the top end stuff. He doesn't have to face Shohei Ohtani, where Shohei Ohtani struggled against him the entire NLDS. I guarantee you, Shohei Ohtani will throw in some of his endorsement money towards the contract if you sign Tanner Scott, just so he doesn't have to face him. Yeah. And then you get another top-level lefty arm to potentially match up with Juan Soto if you face the Mets again in the NLCS. So I'm already thinking about postseason matchups for or against the Dodgers, and Tanner Scott is someone who 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, whatever inning it may be, you throw him out there, and the Dodgers offense already giving you 4, 5, 6 runs because of how potent they are. You are winning these games. So I look, 40, 60, $80 million for a reliever is a lot, but it's not Hader money. It's not Edwin Diaz money. And you just don't want to put to chance your World Series back-to-back titles and this margin for your championship window at the hands of other teams having to give you talent during the season. I think the Dodgers are scared of the Dodger tax, giving up too much talent, and not getting that elite stuff. Because look what happened last year at the deadline. We thought that Tariq Skubal was going to be traded for a moment there. Sometimes we did, sometimes we didn't. He didn't get traded. We thought that Crochet was going to get traded. He did not get traded. The best starter went to the Dodgers in Jack Flaherty. Jack Flaherty's not a number one. So there's no guarantee you're going to get those number 1 or 2 guys at the deadline anymore with the expanded postseason because of how high the prices are.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, if Tanner Scott is the right thing, no doubt in my mind. It's just, let's hope they do it. And Shohei, he's got to be in Friedman's ear every other day going, if he signs with, he won't sign with the Padres. If he signs with the Giants or with the Diamondbacks, I'm going to be very upset. Or even, a team that they may face in the postseason. Because again, like you said, it is about October. There is a good size window here because the talent is so good. It would be the topping. It'd just be something where it's kind of like, wow, this Dodgers team, they have maximized their, because look at that. How do you add to the lineup anymore? I mean, maybe go out there. Here's something I want to ask you. Are you happy with where the outfield is with Tommy Edman being locked into the center field spot? Or would you consider trading with the Chicago White Sox potentially for a Luis Robert Jr.,
who is elite in center field, and you got Conforto, you got Teoscar Hernandez, you still can use left field for some other guys in certain spots. But are you happy to lock Tommy Edman into that center field spot, or would you still consider adding to the position player side, maybe with the trade?
Yeah, I don't like locking Tommy Edman in center field. That he's not a real power hitter unless it's right from the right side against Sean Manaea. But his value is his versatility. It's like Taylor used to be, maybe still, and Kike. There's so much value in the versatility. Now, hey, lock him in October, but during the season, you want him all over the place. If you have a chance to get Robert Jr., you got to take a look at it. Personally, if they were to make that move, it probably would include Gavin Lux. I put Mookie back at second. I put Tommy Tanks at short for now, with Miguel Rojas possibly coming in here and there, and Tommy moving over. That adds that versatility back into it. And I know Mookie's locked in at short right now, allegedly, we'll see. But to get it, Robert Jr., who has 3 years left at 15 to 17 million a year or something like that. He is an elite talent. He's also he is an injury issue, but again, if you can have him in October, say he plays only 100 games during the regular season, I kind of don't care. They're just going to win a lot of games with or without Luis Robert Jr. But if he's in October, it's a different story.
See, that's the thing right there, is that with Robert Jr., he has only played over 100 games once. That one time he did, he had 38 home runs, and he proved to be one of the best players at his position. And it's also, the contract is extremely affordable if he reaches that potential. We're talking about someone that wouldn't just make an all-star team. We're talking about someone that would get MVP votes up the ballot. And he's a guy that it would be really affordable when you look at his contract. I mean, Luis Robert Jr., when you look at his deal, he had $20 million club options for 2026 and 2027, and you give him $15 million for 2025, and he doesn't have a no trade or anything like that. So it's a very favorable contract for someone of that caliber. And I like what you said about Tommy Edman, because the truth about Tommy Edman is, if he played his entire career in center field, if he played just with the Dodgers in center field, would he sign a 5-year, $74 million extension? I don't think he would. I don't think he would. I mean, he was a little above average as a center fielder with the Dodgers last season. In 2023, he was about 5 outs above average with the Cardinals, who he could play above average center field. But with the glove, he's at his best when you're moving around. You use him in the infield as well. You use him at second, you use him at short. I think they're going to give Andy Paz some opportunities. I mean, he's not going to be completely locked into center field or anything like that. Can move some things around. But I'm 100% agreeing with you. We said that Tommy Edman was the ultimate Andrew Friedman player, right? That it was that meme where it's the upgrade key, right? And it's Chris Taylor, you hit the upgrade key, and then Tommy Edman pops out. If that's the case, you don't lock a guy into one position for 80, 90% of his innings. So I think that has to be on their minds, right? It has to be on their minds. And a domino effect of that would be trading Gavin Lux. So I just want to get your, at the moment, January 2nd, 2025 take on Gavin Lux, Mr. Tim Rogers.
I am still hopeful. I think he's the MLB said, hey, what's the best lineup in baseball? And I got Lux in there batting ninth. And I'm like, that doesn't bother me one bit. Is he going to be the player we all thought he was going to be in 2019? Maybe not. But I still like what's there. I thought he played really good defense for us. I rewatched Game 5 early last week, and he made some nice plays out there. I mean, the guy can actually play a good second base. He did have the game-tying RBI. He got the bat on the ball when he needed to. Now, his overall postseason numbers weren't that great, but he played a key role. And I'm not one of those say, let's get rid of him for no reason. No, if I get Luis Robert Jr., yes, then okay, then I'm willing to trade Gavin Lux. But I'm not willing to give him away like some of these people. They want to give him away for a bologna sandwich or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, no, he's a
Half-eaten
value.
bag
He
of
has
chips,
value.
right? Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's something that I think people lose sight of when discussing Gavin Lux is that if you're saying you would be willing to trade Gavin Lux, does that mean you're saying you think he's a bad player? Is that even you saying that you don't think he can make the All-Star team? I don't think that's the case. It is, we're giving up something to get something, and it's about fit on this team. If Mookie Betts was 27 years old, 28 years old, and winning Gold Gloves in right field, this wouldn't be a conversation, right? Because Mookie Betts would be playing Gold Glove corner outfield spots. You'd giving you production at the plate, playing like an MVP, and you would say, you know what are you talking about? Gavin Lux is a former top prospect. Sure, maybe he couldn't play shortstop at the big league level. He hasn't proven that yet, but we'll take a above average defensive second baseman that after the All-Star break really was a top 10 hitter for a couple months there. Now, can he catch lightning in a bottle and perform that way for an entire season? Probably not, but I do think that he's closer to the hitter he was after the All-Star break than the hitter he was at the beginning of last season.
Yeah, completely agree with that. Yeah, I mean, what happened at the beginning of the season with him? Of course, he's still he had to recover from that whole demotion from shortstop, and it was a demotion. Having to go back to second base, I'm sure that got into his head. Who wouldn't, right? And then he still had the knee injury to deal with. That he seemed tentative for quite a bit, but once things seem to kind of break loose in a good way with his head, who wouldn't be a little nervous about having what happened to his knee and going, what if that happens again? He had to get past that. So I think he got past a lot of things, and he had the support. The Dodgers were supporting him, even though I think a lot of us were talking like, man, it's getting close to the trade deadline. This guy might be optioned, but he rebounded. He reacted in a positive way, and good for him. I'm pleased with him. But like you said, we make that trade. We make the right trade. Then it'd be good for him. It wouldn't hurt him either because he's gonna play at the major league level with some team. That's for sure.
That's for sure, right? I mean, he has speed. He has some versatility. I mean, they tried him in the outfield, right? But I like that you pointed out, a lot of people forget that he did have the sac fly. He did keep it off the ground in that pivotal Game 5. And he was a big reason why they won. I mean, the thing about the thing is the fact that we weren't talking about Gavin Lux a lot in the postseason kind of was a good thing, right? Because you're talking about Gavin Lux, it's almost like, you're talking about him because you want him to be optioned, you want him to be traded, this and that. And it kind of goes back to the fact that, you just kind of further reflect on this World Series championship. Gavin Lux was a couple weeks away from getting optioned. Walker Buehler was a couple weeks away from getting released. And both those teams served a role for this team, right? Walker Buehler was next level, but still, I mean, I think with Gavin Lux, the question I have is, are you crazy enough to give him another shot at shortstop? For most teams, maybe, but for this team that's as all in as any team, not just baseball, as all in as any team in all of professional sports, with that kind of pressure, would you be willing to try him again at shortstop?
I had talked about that, and I think if they would have said, hey, at the beginning of spring training, we're not going to give it to him. You got to earn it. And if he earns it, I'm okay with that. It's kind of like with some of these other guys, the Bobby Millers, the James Outmans. I'm not going to judge them completely based on last year or previous performances. For somebody, they got to earn it. And if Lux if they wanted him to try shortstop, sounds like they won't, he would have to earn it. No, there's no gifts to the question marks. The guys that have already earned it, Mookie Betts, you get to play wherever you want, it sounds like. Freddie Freeman, locked in. Even Max Muncy, he's locked in. Teo's locked in. Will Smith's locked in. Those type, Shohei Ohtani, of course. Those guys are locked in. Other guys, you got to earn these things. There's no gifts right now. Nobody gets any gifts anymore that are unearned. So I was open to it. They're not going to do it. Maybe another team would do it to him. It would enhance his value if he could prove he could play shortstop. That's for sure. But it's not going to happen with the Dodgers.
See, then if that's the case, I think that almost seals his fate with his team in some capacity. Because if you are, the Dodgers are going to be fine with you not being versatile if you hit like Mookie, if you hit like Freddie, if you hit like Teoscar Hernandez, right? The question that they're going to have to answer is, if Gavin Lux isn't hitting at an above average all-star level, then how can you make sense of just having him lock up that position? So if they're not going to try him at shortstop again, if you don't, they're convincing themselves that Mookie is that guy that with a full off season can play shortstop at a passable level. And yes, when you factor in what he does at the plate, he's still going to be an above average shortstop. But my question is, what kind of toll does that take on him for an entire 162 game season? Still, you can get Rojas in there and you can get Edman in there, and there's other options that give him a breather for sure. But still, if you're going to play shortstop, you're going to play shortstop, and it's a long season. If you're going to be the permanent guy there, you're still going to play a lot of baseball at that position, and that's going to take a physical toll on you. How big of a concern is that for you, Mookie being a full-time shortstop for the Dodgers, and what that could mean as far as bleeding into his offensive performance?
It's one of my biggest concerns, especially when September, October comes around. I mean, Mookie kind of got some monkey off his back with his postseason performance. I mean, he had a great postseason. He batted over 290, I believe, in the postseason, and obviously had key things, played great defense out there. But man, I'm not in charge, obviously, but this is not what I would be doing. I'd be going into the camp with Tommy Tanks at short and Mookie at second. And eventually, and this is for, kind of wind it right back to Lux. Mookie Betts is not going to be the shortstop for the next 5 years. It's 1 or 2 years. It might even be 3 months.
Exactly. And is it really worth it is kind of my question there, right? But
yeah,
just for fun's sake, I mean, what pops into your mind when I ask you who's going to be the Dodgers shortstop a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now? I mean, is there anyone in the organization that you think, do you think it's just going to be a question they're going to have to answer for a long time now? Because they've clearly wanted that guy. Right? I mean, before they even traded for Mookie Betts, they were interested in trading for Francisco Lindor, and they weren't going to do that unless they thought they had a chance to extend him. I think there is some parallel universe where Lindor has signed a $300+ million deal with the Dodgers. Clearly, Seager, they were interested in bringing him back in some, not for $325 million, matching that for what they would have to get someone close to that. I mean, they weren't interested in Trey Turner or anything like that, but clearly they have considered having an elite shortstop, but they just never really were able to find one that made sense. But it's kind of what comes to your mind when you kind of think about, like, who is the long-term solution for the Dodgers at that position?
Well, it could be Alex Freeland.
Yeah,
he's coming along, but hey, for the next, if Mookie doesn't work out, we have Tommy Edman. I could see him as a shortstop even in 3 years, possibly. That's one of the reasons you sign the guy, is because he's an insurance policy all over the ball field. And then they've got, the Dodgers in the lower levels, they've got a lot of young shortstops. Yoendry Vargas, of course, is one of those names. Emil Morales is another name. And one to keep in mind of, he's had a lot of injury issues, is Sean McClain. Sean McClain, I've watched him a lot. He is a fantastic defensive shortstop. It's just and the pedigree, he's got the pedigree. His brother's Matt McClain with the Reds. He was a very high draft pick with the Dodgers. So I have big hopes for McClain also, but they're all prospects, which means they are suspects. And so, but it's telling though, isn't it, that the Dodgers didn't sign Willy Adames. Like, I think a lot of us thought that was really in the cards.
Absolutely. I mean, it was very quiet when it came to the Willy Adames front. During the summertime, there was some buzz about it, that they were going to have to choose between Adames or bringing back Teoscar Hernandez. You saw Adames sign for a really nice contract for himself. And I think that the Dodgers are kind of in a position where, do they want to pay shortstops that are 30, 31, 32, or do you want to get a guy early? And it does feel like it has been a point of emphasis in the farm system. There's a lot of buzz about Alex Freeland, the guys you mentioned as well. Do you think that that's something that's been kind of at the forefront for them, front of mind, to try to see if they can develop a homegrown talent to take over that position at some point?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, their number one draft pick was a shortstop out of high school, Kellen Lindsey, who
appeared on the show. Great Kellen Lindsay. Love that guy.
I still haven't watched that. I'm a bad man. I'm a bad friend of the show.
I watch every single episode of Blue Madness.
Oh, I'm sure you have.
Every single episode, every season, sometimes twice. You can't watch our interview with the number one Dodgers guy, but it's okay.
I still need to look at that. Well, and he will be at Rancho. I'm super excited about that guy. The comparison, of course, is Trey Turner. Hopefully, he's actually a better defensive player than Trey Turner, because I'm going to just whine one more time about it. 2022, I thought, hey, we leave Seager, which I hated. But I go, you know what? At least we're going to be better at shortstop. And we weren't. Trey Turner was like, he's average. He's average.
2022 NLDS game 2. He booted that one.
Bruh.
Will Myers.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Will Myers retired. You see that?
I did see that, man. I wish years too. I mean, you're in enemy territory, you're in little brother territory. Let's actually just put it that way. You're in little brother territory down in San Diego. What do you make of the Padres offseason? I mean, they're not bringing back Tanner Scott. Every single Dodger I've talked to, you ask them who the best team they faced. You've heard on multiple podcasts. They say it was that Padres team. But losing to this Dodgers team after being up 2-1 in that series, I'll say it before I say it again, the Dodgers didn't just win the World Series. They also prevented the Padres from winning their first World Series. But kind of what's your overall feel for the Padres this offseason? Do you expect them to go toe-to-toe with the Dodgers again in 2025?
They'll definitely be a challenger. And this is just for the goodness of our quote rivalry. I really want them to sign Jurickson Profar back. That clown, he fits right in with the other clowns, Tatis and Machado. Those, do you still remember Tatis doing those stupid faces on the cameras? I mean, Machado's the most mature of those guys. Not saying a lot. But I think I think they struck lightning in a bottle a bit, but I don't put anything past them now. There's talent. And AJ Preller, still one of my favorite GMs, just because of what he's given away and all the dumb contracts. But he does have that eye for talent, and he keeps finding ways to do that. I mean, he traded half his farm system within a few days to get, or a few weeks to get Tanner Scott, Arias, Dylan Cease. I mean, that was within 4 months. He traded 15 top 20 prospects or something like that. He will replace those guys and have more to trade, but they're out of money.
That's the thing.
They got to trade. They got to trade Dylan Cease probably.
The Cease trade potentially, I think, is kind of a signal that they're adjusting and they're not as. That money spigot has kind of run out a little bit. I mean, you had the Xander Bogaerts deal. And I also look at the Arizona Diamondbacks. I mean, what they did this offseason, going and getting Corbin Burns, Zach Gallen, that rotation, Erod, still the only player to say no to Los Angeles. I mean, who doesn't want the beautiful palm trees and warm weather in that Dodger blue? But still, I look at the Diamondbacks and the Giants with Buster Posey. It'll be interesting as well. But I think that Padres team, I mean, that's a postseason defeat that can linger. I think that we saw the Dodgers postseason defeat to the Padres linger in 2022 and kind of roll over to 2023, even though they were decimated by injuries during that season. And sometimes it takes more than just kind of one season to just get that funk off you with such a bad postseason loss. But I think with the rest of this kind of postseason, into the offseason, into the new year, I think if you're the Dodgers, the momentum continues to carry. And that will Roki Sasaki go to the Padres, right? I mean, do you kind of feel like the Padres are that team for him as far as the biggest threat to the Dodgers? Or do you think, hey, if the Dodgers, they continue to roll, once you get that notification, no one will be surprised and Roki Sasaki will be in Dodger blue?
Yeah, the captain obvious one is that Roki Sasaki should go to the Dodgers. I mean, that is just so obvious in so many different ways. If you go to the Padres, I know the whole Darvish situation and all that type of stuff. Darvish is 38. He's even though he's still good last year, it's going to fall apart soon. And it's the Padres. They're not a lock to be in that postseason. If he fails with the Padres, that's going to be a real problem. His legacy is going to really, really go into the tank with that. With the Dodgers, he's got time to grow. Padres, he has to be one of their top 5 starters right now. With the Dodgers, it would be great, and I think we put him in the 6-man rotation. But if he's not quite ready, okay, it's not the worst thing. He can build up his value so much better with the Dodgers. I mean, I'm talking about after the 6 years.
For sure. And also, too, I mean, a extension at some point, too, if you want to go that route. If he was happy here, I mean, the Dodgers would be, obviously, the Major League Baseball would not approve an extension out of the gate, right? It's not how this thing works. Right. But if I'm Roki Sasaki and I'm on the Padres, I think to myself, if I'm in a organization where I'm even having success, do I feel like they could pay me and add pieces around me? The answer for the Dodgers is an emphatic yes, they can do that. With other organizations, I'm not so sure that is the answer. But I think what you point out was one of the biggest reasons why I would take the blue pill, as I've been calling it, and signing with the Dodgers, is that they can afford to use him as much or as little as they want and need to in year one. This team knows you can win a World Series by winning 98 games. You know you can win a World Series with 3 starters. Of course, they don't want to cross that bridge again, but they can ease him into it. If he signs with the Padres, if I'm a Padres fan, I want him on billboards. I want him getting the ball on opening day. He's the phenomenon there in day one, and that's going to be a lot for a guy that it isn't as polished as Yamamoto was when he came here, isn't as polished as Ohtani was. Yes, you see 102 on the gun, you see a 91-mile-per-hour splitter that drops 35 inches, and you feel like he should win the Cy Young in his first year, but that's just not the truth about Roki Sasaki. He is very raw still and is going to need some time to transition to the show.
Exactly, and why would you want to swallow a brown pill? I'm just saying.
Yeah, exactly, man. Black licorice. Are you a black licorice guy?
I like black licorice, but I ain't swallowing no brown pill.
Yeah. Wouldn't trust that. Would not trust that. Okay, so Tim, what do you grade this Dodgers offseason so far? And what do you still hope they will do? I mean, you can even throw out Kike and some other things, but what is your offseason grade so far?
I do grade it a good, strong B for sure. Easy. And it's getting Teo back. Of course, signing Blake Snell. The team is upgraded. What to do? And of course, re-signing Trinan. I wanted to bring all the guys back. It's not going to happen since Buehler's already gone. But where they're at, I think you definitely sign Kike back. He's October. He can platoon with Muncy. Muncy's 34, so there's a little bit of age. He had the big injury.
And struggled against lefties too.
Yeah, he really did. So sign Kike, and then you do Roki and Tanner Scott, and I'm good. If you can make the Robert trade, that has to be on the table. You start adding bonuses. If we were to say, hey, if we just sign Kike right now, I like our team a lot. If we add to it, like you said, we're building. It's the golden era of Dodger baseball. Well, as Andrew Friedman said, we quote that a lot, both of us. You're just making it better. You're fulfilling the desire to not have to trade top prospects, and they did give some top prospects for the guys they got, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat. But you don't want to have to do that. So go get Tanner Scott. Consider making that trade. Get Roki. Roki's not costing you anything. I mean, that's a no-brainer. It's his decision. And bring back Kike. What a team.
Yeah, I think it's just the Dodgers have distorted what a offseason grade is like. I think you give it a B. I mean, that's strong. Think about it. You just gave a B to a team that signed Blake Snell for $182 million. That brought back Teoscar Hernandez. That signed Michael Conforto. That gave an extension out to Tom Yemen. That brought back Blake Trinan. And you're right to do so, just because the Dodgers have set this new standard for what it's like to sign players and acquire players via using their financial muscle, via using trades. And the truth is, they're so heavily in the mix with the guys you mentioned, Tanner Scott and Roki Sasaki, that I think a B is actually a fair grade when you consider that you can't put multiple pluses in front of the A, right? It's either B, B plus, A minus, A plus, all that stuff. You do sign Tanner Scott and you do sign Roki Sasaki, that to me gets it to the A+.
Yes.
But I do think that if you do get one of Roki and Tanner Scott, and then I think just Kike and Kirsch are coming back, I've basically locked them in this entire time. I think that gets them to A mode. But do you think they can get an A with just the signings of Tanner Scott or Roki coming? I think Roki coming in gives it an A for sure.
Yeah, it does.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And even I think if they get Kike, it probably drops them or puts them up at an A-. And you said Kershaw, that locked in during the parade.
Oh, 100%.
It was like, I don't even think about that anymore. It's just a matter of when he's going to be healthy. But yeah, Dodgers have done really well. So I'm old. When the Dodgers beat the A's in 1988, the offseason got marred by losing Steve Sax. Despite the fact they traded for Eddie Murray, losing Steve Sax was a huge thing. Losing Teo would have been of that type of same grade. So props to the Dodgers for spending the money, working all that stuff out. Yeah, it's a strong B. When I say strong B, it's probably B+. Kike gets it up more. Strong A. Tanner Scott, even a Kirby Yates will help, and of course Roki. I mean, my goodness, and I think they can do more.
Yeah, no, honestly, look, I'm so high on Roki Sasaki that I will actually just kind of go back on what I said and said if they just get him, not even get Kike back or sign Tanner Scott, it takes it to an A+ for me. Because I mean, on paper, you are potentially getting a guy that could sign for $200 to $300 million for less than $10 million that could win multiple Cy Youngs, and you put him in the best organization in baseball. So yeah. And then add the fact that you already got Blake Snell. So that would take it to an A+ for me. But I want to end here, Tim, because I want to ask you, you're a big merch guy. You brought back the losing Steve Sax in 88. Yeah, it would not hit the same on the ring day to not see Teoscar Hernandez with the gold outlined Dodgers uniforms, right? I want to know, what have you purchased since the Dodgers won the World Series? How much merch are we talking about? What have you caught? What's the favorite thing that you picked up? You got your Evel Knievel shirt on, by the way. We'll talk about him. But what is your favorite thing you picked up?
Well, right off the bat, I ordered the Freddie Freeman World Series jersey because I always do the MVP. So I have me a Corey Seager #5 World Series MVP. Now I got me a Freddie Freeman. I ordered my youngest a Walker Buehler. He didn't, despite the fact Walker's gone, so what? I mean, he's still a legend no matter what. I think I've probably purchased feels like 10 hats. Got a sweatshirt, got some t-shirts, got a Freddie Freeman 20x24 thing that I got to get framed. It'll be on my wall. I didn't go 2020 was really bad in terms of ordering merch. I still owe my wife a jersey. I think she's going to go with Tommy Tanks. So yeah, I've definitely purchased a lot. The gold jersey, cannot wait. Still trying to figure that one out. We know they won't have a Buehler, and they'll probably limit it to 5 or 6 guys. So I'm thinking Mookie. Mookie. I love Mookie.
I love that. I love that. By the way, are you in or out? To speaking of Mookie, let's do it on base or off base. Mookie Betts podcast style. On Major League Baseball's website for $49.99, they sell the dirt from the World Series games. Are you on base or off base on that?
I could see myself being happy to receive that as a gift. I won't purchase it, but I would. It'd be
kind of cool.
I would take it. Yeah, someone gives that to me, I'll take it.
See, I think to me, I would need to know that Shohei Ohtani stepped on that, or you know what I mean. I need to know where the dirt was. Was it stepped on by his ex-player? But no, it is cool. I saw people posting that stuff. By the way, Evel Knievel, you got the Evel Knievel shirt on. Yeah. My dad was pretty obsessed with Evel Knievel too. Yeah. And I remember he told me that the way he got his name was he was in jail for some petty theft, and his jailmate, his last name was Knaufel, and the jail guards called him Awful Knaufel.
I remember that, yeah.
So they called him Evel Knievel. Man, that's crazy. And it's always spelled wrong, right? And he spent over 3 years. Here's a fun fact, too. Evel Knievel spent 3 years of his life in the hospital. Yeah. What's your favorite Evel Knievel stunt? Going over all the Greyhounds?
I just remember going down the Coliseum. using the top of the Coliseum as a ramp and going down. And I can't even remember what he jumped. Maybe that was the buses. I don't even remember anymore. But I just remember that big long thing coming off and all the wrecks. I mean, because our life was Wide World of Sports. You get to see it, a week later, 2 weeks later. The LA Times or LA Herald Examiner or whatever I was reading at LA or no, Long Beach Press Telegram. You don't get much. So you'd see the highlights of him crashing, and there was movies about him, and with the whole Snake River Canyon was such a big deal, and that just didn't quite work out. But I did have the toys. My parents got rid of them somewhere, so I still have to work. But yeah, he was a character at the end of the day, bigger than life. He was pretty darn cool. So it was the same time when Fonzie was cool.
We need
too.
more daredevils these days. But that's gonna do it for this episode of Dodgers Dugout Live. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. You can follow Tim Rogers over on X and Instagram. Also, go subscribe and watch his YouTube channel, The Blue Madness Experience. What nights you go on? I mean, do you have a set schedule, Tim?
I don't. Work's been too busy. I will probably go on either tonight or tomorrow night.
You hit those late night shows though.
Usually I try to go on around 9. I also try to make sure that I always look is Doug's schedule for something.
You're crazy.
Like, I have 5 people. Doug must be on.
Hey man, it's all love, and then we love you here at Dodgers Nation. We love when you come on. We'll check in with you soon. And enjoy the rest of our off season. Have a happy New Year, and hey, let's get this back to back. We gotta run it back, go back to back, and continue to build on the golden age of Dodger baseball. But there he goes, Mr. Tim Rogers. Tim, thank you so much, and hey, as always, think blue, bleed blue, and I'm out.